Caitlin effing Clark is a game time decision. She is a game time decision. She is, as far as I'm aware, someone said she's listed as questionable on the app. Someone said on the app she is listed as questionable. But she is a game time decision apparently. Look, if we're going to be honest, no, she's a game time.
Caitlin Clark may be back, and that will leave a run of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 games left to get ready for the playoff run. Right now, you're looking at the Atlanta Dream, or you're looking at the Phoenix Mercury, which should be very interesting considering all the plots around that.
And suddenly arenas, resale prices, and TV trucks act like somebody pulled a fire alarm. That's the gravity we're dealing with. It's wild, but it's real. Here's why that phrasing, game time decision, it's harder than a highlight dunk. For weeks, the Fever said almost nothing. No firm timelines, no daily blow-by-blow, just rehab and patience while the internet did what the internet does. Fill silence with theories. Then, out of nowhere, status upgrades. Not a full green light, but not out either. Half a heartbeat. Enough to move markets. Enough to make people look up. But rumors don't run an offense. Bodies do. And that's where Indiana's story got messy. Both backup point guards, Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson, went down with season-ending injuries in the same blur of a week, forcing the team to sign Odyssey Sims on a hardship contract just to keep the engine idling. If you've never had a team you love lose 2 ball handlers in a heartbeat, trust me, it's like driving stick with a missing gear. You can still move, but every shift is a grind. Sims brings veteran calm. But let's be honest, the Fever's system breathes when Clark is steering. Her pull-up threat stretches the floor. Her deep passes turn weak side corners into scoring zones. And her pace, this is the big one, decides who's reacting and who's dictating. Without her, possessions get heavier. You can win, they did, but every bucket feels like a long climb instead of a fast break. And that's the thing that makes her return more than a sports update.
If you're wondering about Odyssey, she is a guard, 5'8". She's a veteran, 33 years old. This is interesting. She's been an all-star. She's also was 2019 All WNBA, 2014 All Rookie Team. She's had some good seasons in here, folks. No, she doesn't have a great history with the three-point shot. But if Caitlin Clark is coming back,
when Clark walks back onto the court, it's not just a player returning from injury. It's a switch flipping for a whole economy. Before she sat, Fever games were averaging TV audiences in the 1.8 million range. After she went out, that average was reportedly cut nearly in half. Maybe you think those are cherry-picked numbers, maybe some outlets round differently. Fine, but the shape of the curve doesn't lie. With Clark, big national night energy. Without Clark, noticeable sag. Even non-Fever broadcasts felt it. That's not typical star power, that's network programming weight. And it isn't just screens, it's seats. The ticket market speaks the clearest, coldest language in sports dollars. The second the injury news hit, a rivalry game's get-in price slid from the mid-$80 to the mid-20s. That's roughly a 71% drop. And that's not a vibe shift. That's demand leaving the building in real time. Average prices during that stretch fell from triple digits to something like a dinner check. Meanwhile, when she does play or even might play, teams move games to bigger buildings preemptively. Because they've seen this movie already, one player alters the fire code map. If you want a single image to understand the Clark effect, picture 2 lines on a graph. Line 1 is TV ratings. Line 2 is ticket prices.
Argue this intelligently. No one person means as much to their league, whatever league it is, as Caitlin Clark means to the WNBA. And no person has done more for their league than what Caitlin Clark has done for the WNBA. Patrick Mahomes does not mean that much to the NFL. Steph Curry does not mean that much to the NBA. LeBron James does not mean that much to the NBA. She is a monster. When we look back on this, Caitlin Clark will be for the WNBA what Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were for the...
Now picture both lines jumping when she's active and slumping when she's not. It's not subtle. You can call it hype. You can call it over-reliance, but you can't call it imaginary. And here's where the story gets uncomfortable, because it stops being a box score conversation and starts being a payroll conversation. People's jobs ride on that push notification. Ushers, vendors, freelance camera ops, hotel staff, Uber drivers. If you're close enough to the arena, you can feel the difference in your shift when her status flips from out to maybe. That's bigger than fandom, that's infrastructure. So what do the Fever do in the meantime? They buy time, they simplify. Kelsey Mitchell takes a few more on-ball reps. Aaliyah Boston becomes the sledgehammer inside. Lexi Hall and the role players turn into glue and energy. You keep the locker room tight, steal a couple road wins, and pray the tiebreakers don't bite you later. Credit where it's due. They didn't fold, they even threw down a statement blowout short-handed. But everyone in that building knows borrowed time when they feel it. Borrowed time is brave, it's not a plan. The league knows it too.
You can't tell me that the Caitlin Clark effect isn't real. You knew when news broke yesterday that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for a few weeks, that ticket prices were going to go down, but I never expected them to go down 71% for the rivalry game. I can't help but laugh because the first thing that I thought of when I saw this was a quote that we got last year from Angel Reese when she was talking about how people don't just watch the WNBA for Caitlin. They watch it because of her as well. Hate to say it, those numbers don't lie. They're watching because of Caitlin.
That's why a single status line puts the W on tilt. It's not just about the Fever seeding. It's about national windows, advertiser lineups, and how much oxygen women's basketball gets in the mainstream cycle on a random Tuesday. Caitlin Clark is the rare American athlete whose name moves casual viewers off their phones before a game starts. When she's on, you get who are they playing. When she's out, you get maybe I'll catch the highlights. That's not a diss on the rest of the league. That's a reality check on what a breakout star does in year one. Remember when Bird and Magic didn't just play great basketball, they reprogrammed attention. We're living through that, except attention is now measurable by the second. There's also the psychology of a comeback that nobody wants to say out loud. Soft tissue injuries are liars. One day they whisper, "You're fine." The next day they remind you who's in charge. Most players return with a training camp runway, controlled reps, friendly scrimmages, half-speed reads. Clark's runway is basically a treadmill on 10. Game 30. Go be yourself. And yourself is not normal. Yourself is the ratings magnet, the ticket spike, the walking argument for more coverage, bigger buildings, better checks, all of it.
Sky tickets dropped 71% on TickPick after Caitlin Clark injury. The get-in price for the Chicago Sky versus Caitlin Clark's Indiana Fever game was $86. After Caitlin Clark's injury announcement is now down to $25. And you Angel Reese fangirls will still believe and think that Angel Reese is the reason why people are watching the WNBA.
That's a lot to carry when your leg is still deciding how generous it wants to be. So yeah, game time decision is doing a lot of work here. For you and me, it's a maybe. For Indiana, it's a hinge on the season. For the league, it's a weather report. For the economy around women's basketball, it's a reminder that one star has the power to make the whole day feel bigger. Some people hear that and get defensive. The W is more than one player. Totally agree. It is. But it's also true that some players become events, and events change behavior. Now, if you've been listening closely, there's a second storyline hiding underneath the status updates. The Mordets reaction is teaching the league how to build the future. TVX are mapping the spikes. Teams are testing venue upgrades. Retail partners are recalibrating inventory. Even the schedule makers are going to study which opponents and time slots supercharge the curve. That's how you turn one person's gravity into a broader orbit for everyone else. It's not instant. It's not perfect. But for the first time in a long time, you can see the runway. Before we talk merch explosions, a possible 2.2 BLR rights era on deck, and what a full healthy Fever actually looks like in a playoff bracket, let me land this plane for a beat. The return rumor is the hook. The roster crisis is the tension. The ratings and ticket math are the receipts. Put them together and you get a simple truth. When Clark plays, the sport feels larger than life. And when she doesn't, the sport feels smaller than it deserves. That's not fair to the other stars. It's also not new. Every league that grows quickly grows around a lighthouse. The money trail. Merch, media, and why. Some economists are throwing around billion, the Fevers without identity. And the bigger question, nobody wants to leave hanging. Can the WNBA convert Clark's spikes into a stable floor so the whole thing doesn't feel fragile the next time she tweaks something? Alright, we teased it, so let's follow the cash. If TV ratings are the headline, merch and media are the subheads that keep paying rent. When Clark is active, you see it instantly on the retail side. Jerseys vanish, rookie cards climb, even neutral WNBA tees start moving because casuals suddenly want in on the moment. That's how you know a star isn't just famous. She's a gateway. People who didn't know where the Fever played last year are now debating which colorway to cop before the next drop. That's not normal momentum.
On the verge of seeing Caitlin Clark become bigger than the sport herself. WNBA viewing attendance is up over 200% since she joined the league. The Indiana Fever actually are outselling the Pacers, averaging over 17,000 attendance per game. That's crazy. $1 billion is the estimated increase in WNBA valuation based on Caitlin Clark alone. $1 billion. Now, this is up about 25% from the total economic value. Crazy to see these kind of numbers. I think we're on the verge of seeing something like MJ Tiger, where the average consumer goes to the TV because of somebody.
That's culture waking up. And sitting right behind retail is the rights era. Everyone in the building can feel it. The league is graduating to bigger stages, better windows, and more consistent shoulder programming. That next media deal isn't a maybe someday idea. It's a real calendar event with real money attached. It's where Tuesday night regular season hoops becomes appointment TV because the schedule actually treats it like a pillar. Clark didn't create women's basketball, obviously, but she did create a bargaining chip nobody can ignore. When one person proves a ceiling you didn't think you had, the smartest play is to lift the floor for everybody else. And yes, that's the real challenge. It's easy to point at a spike and say, told you so. It's harder to design consistency around it. More national slots that aren't buried. Production packages that educate casuals on the fly. Storytelling that onboards new fans without talking down to the lifers.
Caitlin Clark's agent, Aaron King, said Caitlin will never be paid what she's worth by the WNBA because it is quite literally impossible for them to pay her what she's worth. An economist at Indiana University Columbus calculated that Caitlin Clark was responsible for $36 million in economic impact to the city of Indianapolis, and that she is responsible for 27% of the entire WNBA's economic activity for this past season, including attendance, merchandise sales, and television. One player in a big league responsible for 27% of the economic.
The job now is to make a big night feel routine, not rare. If Clark's status swings the graph, cool. Then build the programming so the rest of the graph doesn't fall off a cliff when she misses a week. Let's bring this back to Indiana, because the Fever without identity is the most tangible version of this problem. With Clark on the floor, spacing stretches like taffy. Weak side corners matter. Boston gets single coverage more often. Mitchell's on-ball reads come with cleaner lanes. The defense has to pick its poison. Chase over 2 screens and watch a backdoor cut. Switch and watch a big slip into daylight. Without her, you can still create those advantages, but you have to manufacture them. Deeper actions, more decoys, more clock burned. You can win. Indiana proved that with a short bench and a statement blowout. But it's work. Clark turns work into rhythm. And the roster squeeze did more than clog possessions. It forced the front office to speedrun a contingency plan. Odyssey Sims wasn't a luxury ad. She was a steering wheel. That alone tells you how tight the margins got. You can admire the grit and still admit the obvious.
Active and playing 4 games and then not, and like not feeling the best, and then like frustrated of like how hard I worked in the off season, and then like all I do is rehab and like continue to do this process. And just like trying to trust that the best I can. And obviously there's really frustrating days, and there's days where like it's a little bit easier and like you're very, very motivated and like you're right at close to the finish line of getting back and being back. And then like, it's not like I have a training camp to like build up to like playing my first game again. It's like, no, like you're tossed into game 30, like go try to play well. Like it's hard. Like
this group is built around a player who makes everything 2 steps easier, 2 beats faster, and 10 times louder. The best teams don't just have stars. They make sense when the star is on the floor. Indiana's blueprint makes perfect sense with Clark. Now zoom out one more time to the ticket market, because honestly, it's the cleanest light of it we have. When she's rumored to return, resale behaves like it got an adrenaline shot. Get-in climbs, lower bowl dries up, and premium seats suddenly remember what premium means. When she sits, bargain hunters feast. We can argue percentages all day, but the direction is unmistakable. That's not a knock on any other player. It's a reminder that attention is a currency. And right now, Clark prints it like few athletes on earth. And if attention is currency, pressure is the tax. You heard it in her own words. Rehab isn't just reloading the body. It's talking yourself through the noise. Am I pushing too fast? Am I letting people down if I don't play? What if I come back at 90% and everybody expects? Most injuries ask you to heal. This one asks you to be a rating strategy while you heal. There's a reason even veterans raise an eyebrow at that load. You don't get a training camp runway. You get a welcome back, here's New York on ABC. Please be transcendent.
Caitlin Clark continues to crush the viewership department and bring in those big ratings. This is from ESPN PR. This past Sunday, ABC aired another of its most watched WNBA games ever with the Indiana Fever's win over the Dallas Wings. It averaged 2.1 million viewers and peaked at 2.5 million viewers. WNBA on ESPN is up 7% from last season, man. What? The numbers are crazy. The numbers are crazy. She's a draw.
Which brings us to the playoff math, because the bracket doesn't care how poetic the story is. Indiana is in that sweet spot where a solid week flips the seed and a bad weekend dumps you into a meaner draw. You've heard the names already: Dream, Mercury, the usual subplots and grudges. And remember what she said last time: energy, but underneath all that is just simple calculus. Secure the seed that gives you 2 home dates in a 3-game set and your odds spike. That's what Clark changes on day 1. Leverage. With her, you aren't asking whether you can survive a best of 3. You're asking whether you can end it in 2. And let's not pretend the league isn't scoreboard watching. The front office doesn't want a product that only sings when one person is mic'd. That's why you're seeing smarter crossover windows, bigger rooms in certain markets, and better on-ramps for storylines that don't have Fever in the title. It's why broadcasters are suddenly fluent in rookies and role players you couldn't get an exec to name 2 years ago. The plan is obvious. Use Clark's gravity to teach the room new names while it's full. If you do that right, the night she sits doesn't feel like a power outage. It feels like a different channel in the same ecosystem. Meanwhile, the economics keep stacking up. Retail pops, social metrics jump. Even third-party markets, memorabilia, ticket brokers, local hospitality plot their weekly revenue around one injury report. Is that sustainable? Not by itself. Is it useful? Absolutely. You take the wind when it's at your back, you build sails that don't rip, and you add engines for the calm days. That's what the next 18 months should be, turning a phenomenon into an infrastructure. Back to the basketball, because at some point this stops being theory and becomes a whistle and a jump ball.
Caitlin Clark just helped deliver a major statement win. On Saturday, June 14, Caitlin Clark returned to the court for the Indiana Fever after missing 5 games due to a quad injury. The Indiana Fever handed the New York Liberty their first loss of the season, and Caitlin Clark was at the center of it. She made a return with force, leading the charge on both ends of the floor, and she came back in dominant fashion, putting up 32 points, 9 assists, and 8 rebounds. Just shy of a 30-point triple-double in a 102-88 win over the New York Liberty. Now, even NBA's own LeBron James took notice, posting the CC effect.
The business implications of Clark's return are staggering. ESPN Network's
I wasn't expecting Caitlin Clark to be coming back this early, but ESPN put out an article earlier this week, kind of summing up. They was predicting Caitlin Clark to be back by August the 12th. Now, this just came out of the pipeline of the Indiana Fever front office. Let's pull it up right now.
The first game back, whenever it lands, won't be a referendum on her entire season, but it will feel like one. Everyone will be itchy to declare she's all the way back or she came back too soon, and the truth will probably live in the boring middle flashes of the comet. Stretches of rust, a couple of possessions where the timing looks half a beat slow, and then bang, a 2-minute run that reminds you why the building shook when she checked in. That's how comebacks work. They're messy until they're not, and the opponent knows it. Don't underestimate the sight game here. Every defender has watched the same film and circled the same questions. Test the handle early. Crowd the gather, make her change directions twice. See how the body answers. Meanwhile, the Fever will do everything to simplify the reads. Early drag screens, empty side actions, get the first clean pull-up so the rhythm machine can boot. You can almost script the possession flow without seeing the scoreboard. Let's talk stakes without the fluff. For the Fever, this is about converting a fun turnaround into a real window while the rookie contract is team-friendly and the supporting cast is synchronized. For the league, lock in the surge so that when the rights era begins, you're not selling that one special season, you're selling trajectory. For Clark, find the balance that keeps her on the floor long enough to be herself without spending the rest of the year bargaining with her own body. That's the triangle. If they nail 2, the third gets easier. If any one side collapses, the others wobble. There's a quieter truth tucked inside all of this. The fan base got bigger, younger, and louder. You can see it in the clips that go nuclear at weird hours, in the way casuals trade scouting reports like they've been watching for a decade, in the attendance habits that don't drop back to 0 even when the star is out.
Not seen Caitlin Clark since the beginning of July. A lot of people have predicted for her to be out around the end of August, but this is a great update, seeing that she could possibly play tomorrow going up against Paige Beckers. Now, we know they have been having this crazy narrative about Paige and Caitlin, Paige being better. Everything will be put to bed tomorrow. I pray, Caitlin.
2.1 million average viewers to watch the Indiana Fever, Caitlin Clark, take on the Dallas Wings. ABC airs another of its most watched WNBA games ever. WNBA games ever. Ever. Ever, ever, forever, ever, forever, ever. ABC's fourth most watched WNBA game ever. More than 120 regular season and postseason games. More than 120 regular season and postseason games. This is more than most WNBA finals games, including last year.
That's the footprint you chase. That's how you know the moment isn't just borrowed hype. It's a habit trying to form. So where do we land? Right back where we started. One status line that changes the temperature of everything. If it flips to available, expect TV to overperform, tickets to tighten, and the discourse to sprint past nuance like it owes it money. If it stays out, the Fever will gut their way through another week. The league will keep widening the spotlight and the market will wait impatient, but still there, because now it knows what's possible on a random regular season night. Here's my honest no-spin take. This isn't fragile. It's formative. Every growing sport rides a wave that starts with a lighthouse. The trick is using the light to chart more routes, not bask in it. Clark's return won't fix everything, and her absence didn't break everything. But she did something rare. She made women's basketball feel inevitable. And once a thing feels inevitable, it stops asking for your attention and starts earning it automatically. If you're the Fever, you don't overcomplicate the moment. Get her healthy, get her comfortable, get 2 clean looks in the first 4 possessions, and let Boston and Mitchell weaponize the gravity. If you're the league, you keep stacking smart windows and teach 10 more names before the commercial break. And if you're the rest of us, we get to watch a comeback that's bigger than a box score. A comeback that's really a stress test for an entire ecosystem. Either way, when the scoreboard flips from rumor to reality, the building will feel it. So will the broadcast. So will the guy selling popcorn in Section 11. That's not hype. That's how you know a sport has a pulse you can hear.